we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Just a couple of announcements. Blood drive will be held here at the Municipal Center on Sunday, March 3rd from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. in the front parking lot. Please see the flyer in tonight's Select Board meeting packet for more information and call 617-632-3206 for any questions. Select Board members Anne-Marie Foley and Mark Alamo will host an Ask Me Anything at the Grafton Historical Society on Thursday, March 7th at 7 p.m. The Inspector of Buildings, Bob Berger, will be joining them as a special guest, and I know that they would love some attendance there. So first up, we have no public hearings. We have an appointment for the Zoning Board of Appeals alternate member, and that is Alex Mejia. Come on up.
Thank you.
If you'd like to just introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background, and why you're interested in the position. And
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, nice to meet everyone, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Alex Mejia. I moved to town about 2 years ago. Reason why I'm running here is because 2 years ago I didn't know Grafton even existed. I grew up in Holliston, Massachusetts, a little small town right next door. And what attracted me here now that I don't see myself living anywhere else. It's a very uniqueness part of the town, local to us, and for me, I think that the zoning board is a great place to be to provide perseverance and to be able to match the growth that's coming to the community. So yeah, that's it on me.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board?
It's great. You've only been here 2 years and you want to volunteer. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is really, really good. And I'm sure that you'll move along.
Yeah, figured this would be a great place to start. I do have a passion for real estate, and considering that this is within the same sort of sector, I figured this would be a phenomenal place to start, especially as an alternate member. I'm not too familiar with the zoning process, but I do have an eagerness to learn. So figured, this is a great position to get my feet wet, if that makes sense.
Great.
It's good. GBA's got a lot of interesting projects before them at the moment, so you'll be coming on at a real good time for learning.
Awesome.
Any other questions, comments?
No, just a comment. Yep, I had a chance to speak with Alex a little bit and just appreciate you stepping forward, like Ray said. And looking at your qualifications, you definitely seem well qualified to do the work. Anybody who can work at Salesforce.com can get through Zoning Board of Appeals. So,
Sure.
But yeah.
Thanks,
I think it's great. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
We all do.
Awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to appoint Alex Mejia as an alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Congratulations. Thanks
Awesome.
very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
you.
Alex.
Appreciate
Nice
it.
to meet you.
Coming in.
Yes, nice to meet you as well.
All right. Let's see. Next up, we have a road closure request for the Grafton Road Race. I think we've got Adam here. Good evening, Adam.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Loud and clear.
Excellent. All right, perfect. So keep this short and sweet, but the rec department is running our 33rd annual Grafton Gazebo Road Race. It is happening on Saturday, May 11th this year. We're just looking for a request for closure of the road from Millbury to Church Street that spans from off the Common Pediatrics to the Congregational Church of Grafton to give clear way for runners, but also for spectators as well. Open to any questions or feedback. We're excited this year. We're going to bring 50 more spots this year to hopefully increase enrollment for the program to 300. It's one of the bigger road races in the area. So yeah, we're really excited about that.
Fantastic. Is it the same 5K route?
Yep, same route and everything. So everything is, for the most part, status quo other than just the increase in enrollments.
Fantastic. It's a great route for sure. Any questions, concerns, comments?
It's a tough
See you
route.
there.
See you there.
Yeah, I joke that the run up to the hill to the Commons like our own Heartbreak Hill because it really is. I've walked it and I've been winded, so I can only understand for a runner who goes up there. It's pretty big.
Been on
So.
Heartbreak Hill.
So the
tough.
first time I did that, I thought I was signing up for a 5K, but at the time it was actually a 5 mile. And the first like mile and a half was, just up, and it was the most miserable thing ever. So glad you guys have adjusted the route, made it a little shorter. But yeah, it's Grafton, so you're gonna find some hills for sure.
I mean, unfortunately, the 5K is worse than the 5 mile.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Try the hill.
Yeah, because it starts uphill.
All right,
Anyway, Mr. Chair,
Miss Foley.
I move the board vote to approve the 30-minute road closure beginning at 9:45 a.m. on Saturday, May 11th, 2024, at Grafton Common from Millbury Street to Church Street as requested by Grafton Recreation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No, I'll stop.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Hey, Adam.
All right, next up, we have a one-day beer and wine license for Apple Tree Arts at 1 Grafton Common. I see Liz Colonisi. Come on in.
Hello.
Good evening. So maybe you can just tell us quickly, what's your event about and what are you looking to do?
Sure. We are having a concert. It's part of our First Thursdays Americana series, and it's the fourth in that series. The artists are Ash and Eric. They're a sort of folk duo from Worcester, and we're really excited about it. We have the Great Hall set up in like a cabaret style, and it's just a very like chill, relaxing Thursday night out.
Nice. Any questions on this application?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to approve a one-day beer and wine license for Apple Tree Arts on Thursday, March the 7th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No, I just said you do them.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have the warrant for the 2024 presidential preference primaries. I think this was pretty straightforward, routine issue.
Yep, so this is just the status quo of how the board votes to move forward with the election process.
Yep.
So nothing out of the ordinary, nor is there really a whole heck of a lot the board is going to do at this point to change any of the precincts are set, the locations are set. I wouldn't recommend making any of those changes as of today.
Understood. Any questions, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to sign the warrant for the 2024 presidential preference primaries.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next up we have the 87 Milford Road acquisition, which would be a co-acquisition with the town of Upton for the purpose of open space. So this was something we discussed in the last meeting, and we asked staff to get a little bit of additional information. So I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Brasher.
So we've been in talks with the town of Upton. As we mentioned last time, Joe Layden is former planner of Grafton, now the town administrator over in Upton. So we've had some back and forth with Upton, and really what we're looking to do at this point is move forward in the process with an appraisal. And so we would be basically signing on to an appraisal with Upton, so we wouldn't be hiring separate folks, and so we would just be paying a share of it, based pretty much on land value, the way that our land area split, like 3/4 is in Upton. And that's pretty much it for right now. We just need to go ahead from the board to move into that area.
Yep, makes sense.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mead?
is this in 61A?
I believe it is.
It is.
I don't-
Both
yeah.
both parcels or both sides or?
I thought it wasn't.
I didn't think this was.
Okay, I could be incorrect on that. Hold on 1 second.
I think from the TA from Upton, he's indicated that it wasn't.
It is not correct.
Right.
Right, so it would not be coming before
So
you.
that's the appraisal
Yeah.
portion of it. Okay.
Exactly. Yep, sorry about that.
Any other comments?
No,
So I'm personally, I'm in favor of this. I think it's a good part of town for preserving land. It definitely connects up to a number of other properties, both in Grafton and Upton, and you know, it forms part of a wildlife corridor that I think is important, as well as, you know, it sits in that critical environmental area. And obviously it sits on a body of water, which is really important for us to take care of. So,
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to pursue acquisition of the parcel located at 87 Milford Road with the town of Upton for the purpose of open space.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, we have the capital improvement authorization for the affordable unit at 20 Craftsman Court. Any questions on this one?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to approve the capital improvements to 20 Craftsman Court as presented and authorized, and authorize the chair to sign the letter notifying the homeowner and EOHLC as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Let's see. Next up, we have contract negotiation. So, Anne-Marie, this was kind of something that you brought up for the agenda. What I did was I just tried to take, so that we can try to contain the conversation a little bit, is to put in some topics which I think, you know, in reflecting back on some of our contract negotiations in the past, might be a good thing for us to just agree on how we would do these things going forward, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If the board wants to think about a policy, we could do that. I would recommend that we don't do that. I don't think we really need one, and I would not want to, you know, I think a lot of our negotiations are kind of one-off. They're a little bit different, have a slightly different flavor, whether it's a LIP or, you know, a personnel contract, or, you know, that we just deal with such a wide variety that I would be concerned a little bit about hamstringing ourselves. But clearly we have some lessons learned, I think. So that's what I tried to capture in these bullet items. So the first one that I thought we just should go over is our process for using labor counsel or general counsel. Our approach to general counsel in particular has changed. So we had a retainer agreement with our previous general counsel, and that's switched now. So it's sort of pay to play. Yeah, pay for play, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't think the process necessarily changes. So, you know, I think what we do is we basically go through Evan to discuss any usage of any council in town, because obviously that is there's a cost to the town for that. Yeah, so I just wanted to sort of get everybody's nod on that. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
I was, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
You start, Ray.
So, okay, select board process to request use of labor council and or general counsel. So that's us asking for it, that we feel the need to have labor council or general counsel, or we don't feel the need to have labor or
We
general
do.
counsel.
So, for example,
So in other words, am I reading into this that this is saying that we're gonna have general counsel and labor counsel on every negotiation that we do?
no.
Oh, okay.
All
Well,
I'm
that's-
saying is, if the board feels like that would be appropriate,
Oh, okay. And that's what I was asking.
that we're
Maybe it
just
wasn't clear.
agreeing that we talk to Evan first.
Yeah.
And set that up, so that we don't have individual board members or subcommittees just contacting directly our labor council or general counsel, that those conversations really brokered through Evan.
And I didn't realize that was a change, because I know the couple of times I reached out to council, I was told that it has to go through Evan, like 2 years ago.
It's not a change. I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure
To
that we're all in
clarify.
agreement.
Okay.
And that it's kind of said out loud. I just don't want to make any assumptions.
Gotcha.
And so I just thought if I put down all of the different things that I could think of
No, great.
that we might run into, that it would be a good thing to just kind of go over them. So the second one is, authorizing select board members to act on behalf of the board in negotiations. And that is one that, it's, I just wanted to talk through that as well. So I'll just open it up for discussion if anybody has any.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr.
I don't think that so in other words, if we appoint two people to negotiate a lip,
Yep.
for example, I don't believe those two people should be acting on behalf of the board, because it all has to come back to the board to get approved. So you really can't make a deal. So in other words, if you said somebody had a lip or whatever it was, and you said, we want $1 million, to fix the roads and do all of this and everything like that, those two members can't make a deal. The only people that can make the deal is us. So to act on behalf of the board in negotiations changes that. So in other words, two people could make a deal and say to the developer, and I'm just throwing the developer in there, say to the developer, trust me, I have the authorization to make this deal, and that's the deal. But they don't. It has to come back to the board, and the board has to vote on it. So you can say, I want $1 million, and they say, okay, I agree on that, but it's not a deal until this board approves it.
Okay. So that's the conversation.
Yeah.
I think. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good one. Emery?
Yeah, if I can chime in. So what I had talked about, I know we met in executive session, and my concern with how things have gone is not so much, reining in if we appoint one or two people to do certain negotiations, then by all means, we're appointing them to do so. But my feeling that it would be on behalf of the board, and I think what would be helpful is even just to have some parameters that are built in by the entire board, obviously with some leeway, particularly if it's going to be in our favor, but to go in at least with some notion of here's a high, or here's what we want to shoot for the moon with this lip, here's our low, something, so that, to your point, Ray, that in fact you're right, when you come back to the board, it's up to us to approve or disapprove it. However, once, numbers have been bantered about, it becomes a little hard, depending on the circumstance, right, to rein things back in, depending on how that might go. So I think just looking at parameters, gross parameters, nothing completely etched in stone. But I think it would be beneficial as a board to meet prior to these negotiations to just at least have a conversation that here's what we're thinking.
Yeah.
And here are the expectations, right? If it's a two-person committee that's doing this, that the two people are involved all the time. If it's one person and maybe we think council is appropriate, that's, another conversation. But I think that the board as a whole should have some input, and then obviously off you go, and if you can, hit it out of the park, then more power to you.
So I see
Yeah,
everybody's,
Yep.
everybody's had.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
a
I
preliminary
agree.
strategy session on parameters, high, low, whatever. And then 1-2 people go off and do it and come back. Here's where we landed, whatever. That seems to make sense to me.
Yeah, the board
Like a
does
collaborative effort.
does its due diligence with every board, with the board. And then those two people take that direction and go off.
I think additionally with that, you can, play into the strengths of some board members who may have experience in X or experience in Y, depending on, again, there's only a few of these that come up in terms of our negotiations, but it would be another opportunity to tap into some strengths of the rest of the board who may or may not be involved in this particular negotiation.
Okay. I think we're all in agreement on that. I think, Ray, I view if we're nominating two people to go out and negotiate, that they're acting as agents of the board.
So,
I think they have to, because otherwise they're not really negotiating necessarily in good faith. If they don't have some idea beforehand that like what they're negotiating, and we're talking about parameters, is something that is representing the will of the board. So
Well, that's where I think what Anne Marie was saying is if we do our due diligence up front,
Right.
then those two people they're going into negotiations knowing what the board is looking for, and you know, it may, numbers may change a little bit or this and that, but the gist of the whole thing is given to the two people or one person or whatever it is before you go in and do anything.
Right. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. The other thing too is, the board may have different preferences as to what they might want to emphasize in the negotiation. You know, on the left, do we want, more of a monetary thing? Do we want something that's more, open space related or
Yeah.
affordable housing or whatever?
Yep.
So there's sort of the flavor to negotiations. If there are multiple things to be negotiated, I think it would make sense for the board to have some discussions about what our priorities are before we send people off for negotiations. So
I gotta stop talking.
it sounds like we're all in agreement on that.
So basically, sorry to just summarize,
You know,
Mr. Chair, so
Please do.
for the next thing that comes up, be it a LIP or be it the chief's negotiation, whatever it is, that we would potentially have an executive session prior to that. Well, or perhaps we would choose the people and then have an executive session to discuss parameters, or would that be an open?
I think it could go either way.
Okay.
But as long as we both choose them,
Yep,
that would be an open session, and have executive session.
for the parameters.
For
or
the
to
parameters.
start, yeah, that's
I
what I
like
meant.
that.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Okay. So just, once we're in the negotiation process, I guess I just wanted to open up any discussion that anybody wanted to have in terms of the once we've made, had those initial steps, the team interaction with the select board, TA, and council during negotiations. So what happens if we have something unexpected happen? If we're looking to go above and beyond those upper or lower limits, or whatever, then what do we want to do in that case? Or if we need to call in council, or just
For me personally, I think that for the three negotiations I've been here for, the tulips and then the TA contract, I think if we had the meeting, if we had gotten together and had some parameters, I think then we wouldn't need to get back involved, unless it was something completely egregious that we didn't, foresee it whatsoever.
Yeah.
So because hopefully we would have a general gist of, here's what we're thinking, or,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. So, fine. Any other comments on that? All right. So, I guess the thing is, if the negotiating team is going beyond the bounds of what's been discussed by the board in executive session in that initial discussion, then have at it, bring us back something, and then the board will consider it. So, meeting posting requirements, this is pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to talk about, a subcommittee and how that works. Typically, there would be a posting if there was a subcommittee meeting. That's something that has been established recently, so I think that's something that we should adhere to as well.
With only two members?
Yeah, with anything that's considered a subcommittee should be posted.
I don't think that's required.
I think it is. So, and the thing that I would
Well,
point
I think
to.
it's required if there's a majority of the board, but I don't think that's required if it's just two people.
So I'll point to the school committee. They got clarification on their policy subcommittee, which is typically 2 members. And it was determined that they were required to
Really?
post their meetings. Yeah.
Wow.
When you say post, recorded and posted on the website.
Yep.
But, Mr. Chair, I mean, would we post those meetings as executive session because they
Yeah, you'd have to.
deal with contract negotiations?
So these would be open, posted open meetings.
Oh, open meetings.
How could we do that open?
Well, that's-
But
yeah,
we
you
can't
can't
do
do that.
the rest of the
No.
discussion
No.
board-wise as executive session because it impacts the negotiation. So, I don't know how we could post an open meeting for public attendance with.
Sorry. So I don't think that that's accurate when it comes to contract negotiations. I think when you're doing a policy subcommittee, that's a different standard. Because there's no trade secret, there's no benefit to the town or the school committee for that to be an executive session or not public. I don't think that there's a requirement to post a subcommittee for the purposes of negotiating. I will clarify that.
Okay.
Yes,
But-
get clarification
But
on that, yeah.
but I know exactly what you're talking about. Where school committees, particularly, they have they have policy subcommittee, curriculum subcommittee,
Yep.
and the AG's office has or OML has stated that yes, those are public bodies in open session. I don't think that applies in the same case. So I will.
Okay.
I'll clarify
We just
that.
need to clarify it,
We-
and that's
and I'll-
exactly why I put it on the
Yep.
agenda, just
Absolutely, and I will do that.
so we could talk through it. Okay.
And,
Fine.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yeah, of
might,
course.
so we'll get clarification on that, but I can see how that could be something that would be beneficial, not, not to post it as an open meeting, but to have it as an official executive board meeting. So then we know this is happening, I'm doing this, I'm meeting with this person, obviously I would have the date ahead of time, so I can see some benefit to having it posted as an executive session.
And the public sees it too.
Yeah.
In that
Correct.
regard.
Yeah.
That
So-
it's happening,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would say whether we post or not, it's important for the negotiating members to be communicating when they have met.
Yep.
And any relevant information with regards to that. Making sure that if we're making progress, that's noted, not necessarily
Yep.
the details. So fine, okay. Did want to talk just quickly about executive session. And I brought this on here not because of anything that we have experienced on the select board, but based on another experience that I had. If you go into executive session for the purpose of negotiating a contract, that's why you've gone into executive session. If you start talking about other things, like for example, we don't actually want to do business with this company because we're not happy with this contract. Let's go talk to other companies and start doing other select board business that isn't related to the contract. That's just not allowed. So we just need to make sure that we're going into executive session for an allowable reason, and that the discussion in executive session sticks to that topic and doesn't stray into other business, because any other business needs to be an open session. So I just wanted to make that clear. So then in terms of contract review, I think we've done a pretty good job with that, and really that is just going back into executive session. The negotiating team brings it between in front of the full board, gets agreement on that. For the language, any of the terms included, the timing, those sorts of things. And then when the board has reviewed the contract in executive session, but before it's executed, then we would bring that to an open meeting to execute the contract. And I think what we found out last time is we need to make sure that the contract is posted in the packet. So there was just a gap there last time, so we need to make sure that that's done. Yeah, so those are the sort of the things that I thought were lessons learned. But if there's anything that anybody else wants to discuss.
Well, I'd like to see this as a policy that we all sign off on, so this goes for future boards too.
So we could do that.
Yeah. Because I think it's all these things are relevant, and if we look at these and we say, okay, we want to do this, and we all agree that, well, this is what we're going to do, but we never sign off on anything, it never travels forward. So,
So I'm open. Yeah, I'm open. Totally open to that. Very good. I'll just.
And maybe it could be, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
It could be somewhat broad, not all the things that we, just discussed per
Yes,
se,
absolutely.
but just almost like just the process, that there will be contract negotiations. Step A is there'll be a e-board meeting, discuss parameters. B, off you go. Yeah, it could maybe just be a 5-point policy, I suppose.
Okay.
I don't have to go into all the nuts and bolts per se.
Sure. So is that what the
That
board
works.
wants to do?
Sure.
Okay.
Maybe-
William, could you draft something up based on our comments and
Yeah.
discussion tonight? We'll bring that in our next policy discussion. Yeah, thanks.
Can do.
Great. Okay. Any other discussion on that?
Yeah.
Mr. Jefferson, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, if you do have, because you mentioned concern about hamstring future boards, you know, maybe we could think about language in there that, you know, like a where applicable, or, you know, just stating that this is the preferred outline. But housekeeping wise, again, being the first time I've gone through this stuff, I think, for the TA's contract, we will need to set up an executive session to approve our executive session minutes.
Right, that's
And then
correct.
Get those wrapped up.
And actually, Mr. Chair, that was another question I had,
Sure.
related but unrelated, is just all of the executive sessions that we've had since maybe there's a handful since I've been on the board, like, at what point do we see those draft minutes and approve them?
So those go to the TA's office, I believe. They get put into the template, and then we go into executive session to review those and approve them.
And approve.
Typically, those
What's
are
the
done in
contract?
batches.
Okay, so maybe if we're doing this for this particular one, like I said, there's at least a handful, if not more, of
Yeah.
executive sessions that I've been on a part of in the last 2 years that we haven't seen
Yeah.
the minutes of. So if we're doing it now, maybe we could just get those all done and approve them in one meeting.
I think that is a terrific idea. Let's catch
Yeah,
it.
and by the way, the board has the right to approve and make public or not approve, depending on if something is still going on with
Sure.
that
Right.
situation.
Yep.
Then we don't approve it. But as soon as we approve it, it's public.
Yeah. I think we can also approve with redactions.
Oh yeah,
If
I've
there's
never
public
done that,
interest
but
to do
I
that.
don't know.
Anyways, but yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was my only other point, was I'm not sure all the things that we've discussed in executive session so far have concluded.
I know
That
one
one.
hasn't, right?
That one for his contract for sure has,
Yep.
but yeah, let's knock out as many as possible.
Yeah, I just don't want to get too far behind, so, that's a good point. Okay, great. Let's see, what else do we got here? UPS TIF agreement. I'll just open that up for discussion, I guess.
So, Mr. Chair,
Mr. Mead,
you probably knew I was going to say something.
I had a sneaking suspicion
Did you
you
really?
might
I
have
did too.
something to say on this
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah. So, I think it's absolutely wonderful that UPS is finally gonna build this building. And I'm sure all the board members have read the TIF and gone through it. And if you go through the numbers, the dollars, it's an enormous amount of money, over a 15-year period. The last 5 years is considerably less than the first 10. And I just, I look at this and I say, okay, 2018, if this actually went through and they were building and everything, would be in the 6th year of this. So we would be at 60%. So we would get 40% of the taxes. And I think if you add up all the numbers and you go through the whole thing, it's a great TIF for UPS. Really is. It's about $19 million over the 15 years of the TIF. And I know it's been approved by the TIF committee back in 2018 or 2017, 2018. And it was approved by the board at that time. And it went to town meeting. I was the moderator. I remember the meeting very clearly. And everybody was all excited about it. But we're 6 years past that point. And I know they're gonna build over there. But I would really like to see some type of additional negotiations on this. I just, I want them to build there. I know they're gonna build there. but it's $19 million. And it's about $1.3 million per year of each year of the, not each year of the 15, but it starts at that and then it's higher at the beginning and lower at the end. And I just wanted to throw that out there because all we're going to do tonight is either approve or deny this. That's it. That's all our job is here. It's already been town meeting and the whole 9 yards, and I just wanted to bring that up because the first year that I was on this board, I brought this up, that I wanted to take this tip back. That was the first year I was on the board, and that didn't fly. And now here we are, from 2018, 6 years into a TIF, and we're going to go ahead with it. So, and that's pretty much all I have.
Through you, could you explain which aspects you'd like to see further negotiated?
I'd like to see 10 years instead of 15. Okay. I mean, I've done a lot of TIFs, not in town, but in my construction experience, and I've never seen a 15-year TIF, which is fine, but it starts at 100%, and I have no problem with that. None whatsoever. I think that's $3.4 million. I think that's fine. And then it goes down from there. I'd like to see the last 5 years knocked off it.
Mr. Chair, do we have any idea what Shrewsbury is doing? What their TIF looks like?
I don't think they're that far along yet. They're in our original conversations with their town management. They have no TIF in place.
Oh, they didn't vote on one way back then?
Nope. And there was discussion of whether they were going to do one or not. I don't have any update. That was about 2 months ago. I haven't seen it come through.
No, but my question is more, so they didn't have one back in 18. So if they're doing one, they're doing
No, but the other thing in talking to Shrewsbury is that they don't really have much of the building in Shrewsbury. So it's unlikely that they would it's unlikely that they would be enthusiastic about passing a TIF when their upside is a lot less than Grafton's upside.
I think they have 20% of the land.
Yeah, but they also, I think it's like 50,000 square feet or
out of
less.
850,000.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a lot. And they have the entrances in Shrewsbury to the land.
Okay, so thank you for that. And when I, looked at this, I agree. I haven't done a lot of TIFs in my career. However, it does seem it's quite favorable to the company, and it's long. So I appreciate that, and I certainly don't want to see money walking out, the door on us. But I also feel that there was a commitment made to this company back then, and for whatever reasons occurred that they were not able to get going in a timely fashion. I guess I still feel that I would honor this agreement.
Mr. Chair, and Anne Marie, I 100% agree with you that a deal was made. This town had the opportunity to take that deal back. We didn't do it.
Right.
So if I could.
Is
what happened?
Is it a good deal? It's a great deal for UPS. So, but we don't get full taxes until 2039. I'll be 84, I think.
It's not all about you, Ray.
Probably be dead.
Sorry.
Well, but we don't get full taxes until
I know.
2039.
Yeah.
So it's 2000 whatever it is. So
Well, I don't know that there's anything to, and we went through this at the time, but to take back, because the town never executed the agreement. The agreement only exists in that it went through town meeting and that the select board at the time agreed to the terms. But since it was never executed, there was nothing to withdraw unless you went to town meeting and rescinded a vote. And I believe that the board's conversation at that time was that to leave all of this open with the idea that maybe UPS comes back and actually does this. And rather than, I could be wrong, but I believe the conversation was rather than be confrontational, it would help us start that conversation back up, because we didn't go and take anything back, let's say, vote to rescind at a subsequent town meeting, which I believe that's what went on.
Well, the thing is, we do want them.
Right.
We want them to build the building. We want them to provide the jobs that they're talking about, the 900 jobs with preference to Grafton, residents, and then we want those trucks and trailers.
Right.
Okay, and which isn't accounted in with
Right, we're gonna get
in this
excise on that,
situation.
right.
Which is that's big money for us.
Right.
So back in 2018, it was, hey, we want UPS and we want them here. We still do that. We still want them, but
Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So do we run any risk by asking, maybe going back and having a conversation and seeing if there's something that we can do? Because if you think about this, in any industry, you have price increases sometimes once, twice a year, or at least every couple of years. There's an expiration date on some of these kinds of things, especially something of this magnitude. Now, I don't know what happened and what the delay was, but would they be amenable to a discussion to addressing this in good faith and just not to? I think you're right, Ray. We want them here. We don't want to discourage any business. We want to encourage people to be here, but it needs to probably be a little bit more current.
But would we not have to then rescind, vote to, would the town not have to vote that? Which would
That's what I'm
prolong
asking.
So this
things
is what would happen.
a lot for UPS?
Let's say, in theory, tonight you say, all right, you know what, we want to go back and renegotiate this. And you do that. You make any changes to the terms that are specified in Mr. Donahue's letter. He does a really good job of laying out the terms that are fixed, and then the other stuff that we can adjust, right? Years and values change and those type of things change. But the general terms that town meeting agreed to are the percentages that you see here. So if you went and changed it and said, we're going to do a 10-year TIF instead, back to town meeting.
Okay.
So board votes, town meeting votes, board executes. And then, there's, to go back to the original part of the question of whether there's risk there. I think there's always risk there. I have not had any conversations with the folks from either Mr. Donahue or from Prologis that would give me any inclination whether they would find that to be, an affront to their coming here. They just asked if the board would be willing to execute the TIF that was already negotiated, and I had said you need to write a letter to the select board. The select board will consider it. That's about as far as we got in that conversation.
In this, was there any language about X number of years and then we have to come back to nothing? Just
Nope.
open-ended?
Nope.
Note to self, maybe change that in the future.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because it's 6 years later.
Right.
But, and just so you know, I was there as well with Ray. At the time, this was very exciting.
Oh, it was.
It was a,
It was,
a
yeah,
huge thing,
extremely.
huge win for us.
Yeah.
And so the appetite was to get these guys in, right? To
Yep.
make it somewhat favorable.
Right.
And I guess, you look at it now financially, we're tight and we're trying to maximize that. But at the same time, it's still a good, it'll be a great win for us to get them here.
Right.
And I just feel like if something has been negotiated previously, this kind of came up not too long with all of us, it's hard to backtrack, in my opinion, in good faith.
Mr. Chair, can I make one other comment? Because I just want to make sure people understand. So what you're looking at here too, so you're going to do, year one is 100% off the incremental value. So that's the value that is.
Can I just say something? That's after construction is completed and a occupancy permit has been issued.
Right.
Right.
So it's the incremental value. It's just the value over what the value is today, right? You're also, I don't know that it's 100% is what it comes out to be, because what winds up happening is the taxes you collect are not going to be 100% as soon as you do that occupancy. there's a lag there, right? In the cycle and everything else. So it doesn't wind up being that full value. It's 100% of the incremental value on the day that we issue that occupancy permit. And then it's going to catch up. You won't realize the full value of that property for 2 years, sometimes 3, depending on how they roll out the rest of the project. Right? That occupancy permit means that they can occupy the building. It doesn't mean that every single taxable part of that parcel is complete. Right? And so I just want to make sure everybody understands there's some variation in that. It's not like a light switch where they just come in with a check and say, here's $1 million.
So from my standpoint, nothing has changed since 2018. I want UPS in Grafton. Every select board member that has ever run for office has said, we need economic development, and this is it. I'm not gonna, as a board member, support anything that's gonna potentially jeopardize. I don't know why there was a delay, but for a facility this size and this scope and complexity, 6 years is nothing. Look at all the other projects that are happening in Grafton. 6 years is, to me, it's a blip. And here we are in 2023, and we just move on. The town meeting did vote it. It was already negotiated. I'm not going to get in the way of that myself. I think that's unwise myself. I understand that I don't know if it's favorable or not to UPS. I really don't. You say it's really favorable to them. I just don't know if it is or not. But I know that it was negotiated. I know that UPS built their plan based on this TIF. And I don't want to even introduce another year or two where they go back and have to kind of rejigger their plan, because now they're having to pay an extra $5 million in years 10 through 15 or whatever. I don't know how our commitment to them is dovetailed into their plans, and I'm in favor of just moving forward with it myself.
And Matt, don't get me wrong. I don't want to lose UPS, and this is an agreement that was already made, voted on, and done.
Yep.
All we have to do is now say yes. I just wanted to bring up everything else that
Totally.
that's with that. That's
what
all.
I'm saying is I would vote yes for this tonight, because I think it's important to get the clock started on getting that tax revenue, and I just don't know what would happen. And I do want to make sure that this is within our authority tonight to signal to UPS the green light, get going, and I think that's really important for us to do. Opportunities like this don't come along very often, and even an extra 5 years tax revenue, I know that's millions of dollars, but I'm not confident that we can even renegotiate this. We don't have a whole lot of leverage because we've already negotiated something else, and it just doesn't seem right to me to ask them back to the table for something that's already been agreed. And 6 years, it's not that long. If it was 15, 20 years ago, okay, but 6 years to me on a development this size just isn't a big deal.
I think it would be a different situation if we didn't have the amount of economic development that's coming into the town in the next 2 to 3 years. I think it would be a different situation, but it's not. So
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Allen.
I agree. I thought that way coming in, had some conversations beforehand. You wouldn't want to go back on an agreement that's been negotiated and voted on. My only point was 6 years does seem a little bit longer to me for
It is.
my personal experience.
I
It
get
seems a little bit long, and would there be something we could do to ask? But in no way, and I think I said this earlier, I wouldn't want to jeopardize anything either. It's a great opportunity for us. So if it comes down to that, then I'm with you.
I appreciate you bringing it up, Ray. I do think it's important for us to consider seriously, because it's not small dollars we're talking about. So
this
it is an
big
important
time money.
thing to not just blow by and sign the agreement. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Mr. Jefferson, I bet that you have some commentary.
A little bit. I think I approached looking into the TIF the same way everybody else here has. I think I have the same feelings that everybody else has, that this was something that we already negotiated, in good faith. We should continue moving forward, as the call has come for us to do so. I think learning from both the UPS and some of our cannabis host agreements, a lot of the frustration over these last few years have been in getting those executed, that we really haven't in the past been good about setting parameters for percentages of development accomplished or anything like that. I went back and forth with that on this one, because we don't outline a specific amount of time that they have to have a specific amount of money invested by. However, as Ray pointed out, under the company obligations, they are obligated to create 300 new permanent full-time jobs within the first 5 years at the property. So I mean, that definitely is a commitment right there, and once this is enacted, forces them to do so. And I think it's unfortunate, but had this been enacted maybe back in 2018, then we have some legs to stand on here and say that they haven't come through with some of their promises that were outlined in the TIF. But unfortunately, we didn't do that, and so now here we are, this many years later, and this is the situation we're in. But it's a great long-term move. It's a big chunk of business development and economic development, as we've all said, and I'm excited it's finally starting. It's it's just focus on the positive, and it's going to be a good thing. Again, reiterating the 20% of they'll make an attempt to hire 20% of their workforce from Grafton, and those are good numbers, and growing local jobs. So good things.
And it's nothing Shrewsbury can steal from us.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to sign the TIF agreement on the United Parcel Service pending review by Town Council.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. All right. Next up, we have
Bob, you better warm up the planning board for that one.
I'm on it. Thanks for coming in, Bob. All right, we have select board reports.
I got nothing.
Mr.
Florida was
Jefferson.
nice.
Happy to. So after our last select board meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust met, and just one thing that I wanted to, I guess, brag on for the town and touch on quickly. CMRPC reached out to Fiona about being part of a pilot program for an MBTA Communities Mixed Use Incentives program, because Grafton was the first to get our MBTA Communities plan in place, created, and passed through town meeting. They noted that the town has heard a real desire for mixed-use type properties through working on the master plan and our housing production plan. And we received some grant funding to explore ideas and have discussions with local developers on the barriers to mixed use with retail that could be in turn be piloted in this new MBTA Communities overlays districts. So yeah, it should be neat. Some talks to further incentivize how we can get some of those mixed use developments that we've all heard so much about, that everybody seems keen on, actually to come to fruition. And they're targeting to have something before town meeting by spring of next year, if not sooner. So
That's great.
yeah, good movement.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about the feedback that I've gotten about Fiona, and also just the proactive approach that our planning board always takes. With the cannabis issue, they were all over it. They think did a phenomenal job at town meeting, presenting it, getting it passed, and the businesses are going to come or they're not going to come. But the fact that we're constantly rolling out the red carpet and creating opportunities for businesses to consider Grafton, that's most of what we can do. And I really appreciate the planning board's proactive work in that area. The MBTA zoning is no different. It's just another thing that they hopped right on, and I think they did a really, really good job with. So I really appreciate that. Any other select board reports?
Nope.
All right. Then we are moving on to the TA report.
Here we go. So we're going to lead off with George Hill Road. We've had a number of people looking for updates on George Hill Road. Unfortunately, we're in the design process, which is not the most exciting part of any of these projects. So what happens is we get a lot of activity in the beginning of a project like this, where we're surveying, testing, boring, doing all kinds of stuff. Then it goes off to the engineers and goes into the design process. So we're waiting for our next drop of plans, which will be coming at some point in the spring, March or April. And then once we have those updates, that's when we start putting together our bid package and going out, and then people will see a lot more actual things happening. But I've been through this process enough times to know that you get all that excitement at the beginning, and then you get this really kind of, it seems like it's off in the hinterlands for a little bit, and then we come back and hit the ground running. It's like remember the Ocean Spray commercial where the guy was like, he was a contractor, and he comes in, he's like, I'm gonna come in here, and I'm gonna rip this whole place apart. I'm gonna put a hole in this wall. You're not gonna hear from me for 6-7 weeks. You're not gonna be able to get a hold of me. But then I'm gonna come back and put it all back together, and you're gonna love it. It's exactly like that for me. If you haven't seen it, YouTube, it's a great commercial.
Or if you've ever had a contractor.
Yeah, right.
You've lived it.
Right. So same thing with Millbury Street sidewalks, right? So we just came in and did the takings. Construction is still slated for March of 2024. We're on track there. North Street design is in progress. We should be seeing some updated designs there. The cupola project, William.
So we have executed the contract with the Mass Historic Commission, and we've identified the vendor who's going to do the work. They've got a draft of the contract to actually perform the work, and we are waiting to schedule a kickoff meeting to get that going.
So be seeing some movement there too, which is great.
Nice.
Regional Emergency Communication Center. So we're actually in the process of formalizing the location change. So we are moving away from the Otis Street location, and it's a former school building in Westboro that is right behind the fire station. Essentially, it's got one building between it and the campus of the fire department. So we'll be doing some updated information packets for the boards. We can do a tour of the site and take a look. I did tour it with both chiefs. Everybody has mixed feelings about it. Honestly, we got to know the other site. We were excited about that site, and now that site is changing. We looked at other opportunities here in Grafton and weren't able to make any of those work, mainly because Westboro already owns and controls this building. We didn't really have anything in the pipeline that was gonna meet that in the timeline that we're trying to meet. So more to come on that. I was a little remiss because the select board in Westboro discussed it at their previous meeting, and I was waiting for that to be able to then tell you folks about it, and then it was in the newspaper the next day, and I was like, well, this is
Old news.
old news now. Everybody's already seen this. Okay, and then 95 North Street, we had our bid opening today, so we're going to move forward with awarding contract for that.
Yep.
And we'll start to see some movement there probably. Probably not till after muddy season would be my guess, just because of the amount of wetland, or it's not really a ton of wetlands, but it's a fairly wet site.
So they agreed on the concept for that based on lots of public input.
Right.
Has there been any design, or is this to award the design?
This is to award the design. We are going to be looking at a few things in the coming weeks with rec and conservation, and deciding what our next courses of action are going to be. So it is higher than the original bid.
You don't say.
Yeah, right. I know, it's shocking. But we did this one differently. So I'd like to think that we're learning. So we did this one as a bid with bid alternates. And so it's basically, tell us this is the base amount of work we want you to bid, and then we want you to give us this slice, this slice, this slice, this slice, so that we can then go back to CPC and go back and talk about, do we need more money, or do we just alter the plan a little bit
De-scope it a little bit.
to reduce the scope a touch? What are the most important features, which for us is an accessible trail, and things that we don't really have anywhere else.
Yep.
And so we're just in the opening stages, but I will say that the winning bid did come in considerably lower than the worst case estimate that we had been talking about.
Good.
So we're in better shape than we anticipated being in. So, okay, next slide. 17 and 27 Upton, we are moving forward. We've had a number of meetings with those folks. I feel like we're very close to their first submission for their engineering to the Conservation Commission. So when I say very close, I mean it's probably April, but that's close for a building of this scope. We've had a lot of really collaborative meetings with them of late to get that moving.
Good.
We had our initial 5 Millennium kickoff meeting with the development team, and so now they're going to start heading off into the Conservation Planning Board realm. But they come and meet with us first, and we give kind of the lay of the land and some information they might need, and answer questions about the building permit process and things like that. So that was a very good meeting.
So indications on 5 Millennium, is there still green light? Everything.
Yep.
Is,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Imminent packages to each of the boards. So I hesitate to say a month because I don't have any control over their process, but you're going to see it in this year for sure. Library flooding update. So we're really trying to wrap this up. Community room flooring was reinstalled and finished as of today.
Yep.
And then the children's room is in progress. We met with Roger Trahan, the head of the the chair of the Library Board of Trustees, our insurance adjuster, carpeting installer, the original. The reason this has taken so long is we've been fighting. Fighting is not a great term, but that's the term I'm going to use with the insurance company, because they only wanted to pay for the squares that were actually wet. We can't get the exact same pattern, and so we've been just going round and round and round. So we finally got everybody to the site. Insurance was great when we were on site. Agreed, we're going to do the whole room. We picked a sample, which is basically the same thing with maybe some minor variations in the color pattern. And we're just waiting for a carpet sample to come in, which should be here probably this week, maybe next week at the latest. We'll then match it up, look at it. Everybody says, yeah, that's good. And then we're probably 6 to 8 weeks from total completion. But they're going to pay to have everything moved out of that room. So it took longer than we wanted it to, but in the end, I think our diligence in sticking to our guns got us the whole room as opposed to just a section. So, looking forward to being done with that.
Question.
Yes.
So we had a couple of storms since this all happened, and everything went well with the things that you guys did in terms of mitigation.
It did. So we're looking to do the permanent fix or a better solution in the spring, when we can actually do some paving and some changes to the road out front to keep the water from even coming in that direction. But our upgrades that we did to the drainage systems, and we did some sandbagging that didn't really wind up, probably wasn't necessary, but belt and suspenders. And so the other thing we did is we bought these things called quick dams, and they're in buckets, right? And so what we'll do is, if we're ever going to get another 4-inch storm, we have a hurricane coming or something, we'll just deploy them to be safe. But all indications are that the changes we made are working. So, yeah. And just another point of interest, if you're interested. If you go down the Veterans Hallway down at the Senior Center end, we replaced that whole hallway's worth of carpet, which came out great. That was really shabby in that area. And we're also carpeting a room upstairs because we're moving our payroll and benefits department into a different office suite. Because we're doing so much more work now, so we're working on that. Sorry, my daughter got a hold of my wife's phone and it's just about bedtime, so I'm assuming there's some kind of complaint coming through. All right, lastly, it's obviously still budget season, and so I got a lot of good feedback about this type of infographic here, so I'm going to try to keep doing this, and just show you what the municipal budgeting process looks like as we get different inputs. So the last time I presented to the select board, we were at $51,000 surplus. We then got our Worcester regional retirement and our cherry sheet. That brought us to negative 137. Made some cuts to get back to 107, and then we got the initial BVT number, which brought us down to 202. Now we have been working with BVT, and they have reduced some of their budget request, which has helped us get to where we are today, which is 107,000 to the good.
Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what discussion is there with BVT?
So, BVT I think gave us their worst case number.
Okay.
And then has been working to they're I will say this, they're in the same situation we are, where you have to give the towns a budget, but you don't really know what the state's money's going to be and this money's going to be.
Sure.
And all these other changes happen. So, they give us that first kind of you should be prepared number, and then have revised that back. And they've been, I think they've been pretty transparent in the conversation of, we're looking at this, we're making this change. And so keeping us in the loop of understanding that that's a big ask for the communities, and how are we going to, do the same thing we do, cut things here, move things here, shift things, so that's essentially how we got to where we are today.
Good. As far as I know, that's new.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that there's more discussion and transparency.
Yeah,
that's moving.
Yeah, I think it's new for me too. Having worked with a regional school in the past, the number was the number.
You get the number, right?
Yeah. So, it's positive. I also, I always think to myself, with educational funding, $20,000 today is good, but what did we lose? Because there's always a loss of something that you're value engineering out of your curriculum or whatever it is. Same thing, same thing goes for BVT. It goes for the Grafton schools and every other schools that our children attend. So, I just try to be cognizant of that and make sure we're putting our money to good use. But as of today, we're up to 107,000. I did just get news today of a different change that's going to knock $52,000 out of there.
To 207 or 107?
107.
Okay.
So, it's
Down
going
to about 57.
It's down to about 50. It's going to move.
All right.
It's going to keep moving. And so
Do what you can to stay above the line.
I'm working on it. Trust me. I
I can see that.
see every time it's below that is when my ulcer gets worse. So we're working on it. I will say, department heads have been great. School departments have been great. We all understand the mission, and everybody's been really surprisingly positive about not getting increases to do different things. So and been really understanding. So I really appreciate that. But that's pretty much all I have tonight for a TA update.
And water district agreed
Sorry,
to
thank
some
you.
reductions
Yes,
as well.
that was supposed to be on my other ones. So this whole budget has already had built into it. We pay the Grafton Water District about $69,000 in hydrant rental fees, lease fees, and they agreed to waive them for this fiscal year, and then to enter into agreements with us to talk about stabilizing that number at a more reasonable to us, more manageable number for them. And so I really appreciate that cooperation. Thank you for reminding me to mention that. tonight. But I built that in when I made the request, just because they've been really nice to work with. So I had some inclination that they'd be willing to help us out. But I nonetheless appreciate it. So
Good stuff.
yeah, really good stuff.
All right.
All right, motion to adjourn.
No,
good.
resignations.
Just a couple more things. We're getting close though.
Oh, my part's done.
Let's see. So we have no correspondence is next.
Yep, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Alamo.
There's the one thing on Brendan Drive. We had some folks come in here a few weeks back, about a month back, to do some construction. They were cool with it. There was one individual that came back.
Right.
Said, hey, there's some issues there, and then brought it up today. I think it's Chris Davis. So is there, it didn't look that bad to me, but has that been addressed, looked at? Any chance Paul can go over there?
It hasn't been. There's still a tire mark there, but we'll make sure that it gets rectified. It's not in any way impacting the sidewalk.
Yeah, I didn't see damage to the sidewalk or the curb.
No,
but
I went by there.
If
It's just
there's an individual that needs help walking.
Yep.
feel
So
like
we'll
we have an
make sure that
obligation
it
to check
gets.
it out.
Yeah, I don't think. First of all, I don't think Grid is going to leave it in that condition. But I also will make sure that it gets filled and leveled.
Thank you.
And if I might, through you, Mr. Chair, it wasn't a construction vehicle, it was the utility company. So unlike what it says in the letter, it was National Grid. So it has nothing to do with the contractor
Right.
that's
Thank you,
working on
Mr.
the house.
Yeah, good point.
Yep.
Yep. Which has been, sorry, just an aside, which has been kind of the interesting point for us because we're not the contractor or
Right.
National Grid.
Right.
Exactly.
We don't really have a lot of sway there. I mean, if we ask them to do something, I think they're going to do it. They've been really cooperative. But I also don't think that there was any real impact to the accessibility there. Regardless, we're going to make that better. I was concerned with the debris all over the sidewalk, though.
Right.
It doesn't appear to be from that instance, so we might need to go over there and just push that stuff back in the
Tough
woods.
time of year for sidewalks.
It is a tough time of year for sidewalks, yes, true.
All right. Any other comments on correspondence?
Mr. Chair, I was just going to ask,
Yeah.
just on GURR, kind of thinking about or working towards meeting or hearing from them or something, okay.
Yep. You mean as far as the safety meeting goes, or do you mean
I
that
think
bringing them
just
in to talk
any
to
of
the
it,
board?
Both.
So I have not spoke to the owner about coming into here. I know that our chiefs are working to get the quarterly safety meetings back up and going and to training and all of that stuff.
Okay.
I did not prepare for that tonight, but I can do that for your next meeting
Okay.
and add that as part of the update if you'd like.
And throw on the opioid thing too, for next
Yes.
one. Okay.
Yep, I can do. Did you ask me to do that already? Sorry
It's
about
okay.
that. I did. Can I give a little opioid update? Because I did talk to the chief about it. I just forgot to put it in here.
Yeah,
You have the
that's
mic.
okay.
Thank you. The opioid committee has met, I think, 3 times. And so, the chief had filled me in just about, it's a little slow going at the start, but they're looking at some educational programming as well as some funding that maybe will go through the police department for follow-up and basically the after the overdose program that we run. So we have a social worker and we have recovery coaches and things like that we put people in contact with. So just supplementing the department a little bit to do more of that. But there hasn't really been any votes taken to execute any of that money.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. I met with him on Friday for that purpose and just didn't put it in there.
Good stuff. Any other correspondence? All right. We have no resignations. Colleen, do you have any public comments? I don't. Do we have any online?
We have no hands on Zoom.
All right. Next up, we have meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Miss Foley.
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes from January 9th, January 16th, January 23rd of 2024 as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thanks.